Today on Tabular Solutions, I am joined by Tabular co-founder and head of product, Jason Reid. We're going to walk through AWS EMR accessing Tabular-managed Iceberg tables. So Jason, this came up recently when you were showing us the Redshift support, but we didn't get a chance to cover EMR yet. So now's our chance to jump into it. So I was hoping you could do that.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Shawn. Yeah, it's EMR support for Iceberg tables and Tabular is great, like the rest of the AWS analytics ecosystem. So this should be pretty simple to walk through and show you how easy it is to get up and running with EMR. So I've got here, this is my Tabular app. I've got this demo warehouse that we use for showing off all the capabilities here. And this is the warehouse that I'm going to connect to over on the EMR side.
Okay.
So to do here in Tabular, let me flip over to AWS. Doing this on the console, but obviously, you can do this stuff all through the AWS CLIs. So let me go ahead and create a cluster.
Okay.
I'm going to show connecting to this with the EMR Studio, but you could use any like Spark interface on this EMR cluster. But since I'm going to use the Studio, I'm going to go into the application bundles. I'm going to grab, don't need Pig for sure. Let me get Livy and Spark and the Jupyter Enterprise Gateway so that we can run our EMR Studio notebooks.
Okay.
It's this cluster, but pretty much all you really need here is Spark, and you're good to go.
Okay.
I'm going to take all the defaults in terms of, this is going to be a small cluster that's okay for demo purposes. Standard networking is all good here. And let me make sure that I'm in the right network. Actually, I'm going to connect to the same VPC where I have my notebooks.
That'd be important.
Yeah. Then I'm going to come down to software settings. And this is kind of where the important stuff happens for getting your configuration to get your Spark sessions talking to Tabular. So I'm going to grab an example of the config, JSON config here. So not too complicated. This is standard EMR stuff. This is just saying, hey, EMR, I'd like to have Iceberg available on my cluster. That's just regular open source Iceberg that ships with EMR. And it's going to make sure that the Iceberg runtime is on the class path. And then this is where I'm going to configure the Spark sessions to actually connect to Tabular. So this is, again, open source Iceberg configuration for catalogs. I'm going to be using the REST catalog, which Tabular implements. I'm also going to take advantage of Tabular's IAM role mapping for authentication.
Oh, so does that mean you don't need to generate a credential?
Yeah, this is fantastic, right? So I can use the underlying IAM role that this cluster is running as. I can map that to a role in Tabular to have a certain set of access on the underlying table. So I can say, oh, for this cluster, you only get access, read or write access to these tables. You can set that up however you want without having to manage any additional passwords or credentials or any other configuration.
Oh, that's slick.
Connecting to my demo warehouse that we talked about earlier, and we are good to go. I don't need any sort of additional security. It's all going to be handled, like I mentioned, through the IAM role mapping. I do need to map the IAM role, though. So I'm going to use the default roles here on the Tabular side. Let's quickly go and show that. In the security area, we can see I've got various IAM roles mapped to this Tabular warehouse, and here's the one that's really mapped for us right now. So EMR EC2 default role, that's the same one that we're going to run over here as our instance profile, and that's what's going to get our Spark session access to our Iceberg tables.
Oh, nice.
That is it. So I'm going to go ahead and create that cluster. Wait for Amazon to get that thing up and running. Luckily for us, we have a cluster like that up and running that we can show what it looks like. So I'm going to jump over to an EMR Studio notebook. Here I have this Tabular demo workspace. So EMR has this studio environment that runs basically Jupyter And this is connecting to that EMR cluster that we just launched.
Oh, okay.
In fact, let's see if we can see here. Yeah, this is attached to our Tabular demo cluster. So you can have your notebooks, you attach them to whatever EMR clusters you want to. And remember that EMR cluster in our setup had some access to underlying Iceberg tables and Tabular. So whatever access is configured at that Spark cluster for that EMR cluster, I'm going to have that same access here in this notebook.
Perfect.
So I should have access to at least run through our tests. Yep, there we go. So what we can see here, we're connected to Tabular. We see all of our databases that are in our demo warehouse. Let's go click back to our demo warehouse. That same set of databases, we see them in our notebook. Very good.
Nice.
We can describe our example NYC taxi table.
Nice.
And then we can actually, run Spark. So here I'm going to create a table for averaging the tip rate per passenger based on this NYC taxi data that we've got loaded up here.
Okay.
And that ran super fast. Very nice.
Yeah, that was really quick.
And then just go ahead and select the data out so we can prove to ourselves that it did what we wanted it to do. You can do it, Spark. There we go.
Sparky.
Yeah.
All right.
But that was pretty fast. We can see here for our standard demo that, carrying 2 passengers gets you the best tips if you're a taxi driver. So we created this default taxi tip rate per passenger Spark. And just to prove to ourselves, that's what we got over here in Tabular land. There it is, taxi tip rate per passenger Spark. So everything up and running well. This is super easy to use EMR, Spark, get a notebook environment. With a few clicks, you can do it all through the browser, or you can use the AWS CLI.
Everything that Amazon's adding for the Iceberg support between Athena and Redshift and EMR now, it's really just very slick and seamless.
Yeah, it's great. And there's nothing you need in terms of Tabular in order to work. This is all just open source Iceberg, right? Connecting through the open source REST catalog interfaces. Even all the security is handled through the open source. So really nice for users to be able to kind of use whatever compute they want, single source of truth data, everything's secure. You can scale up your performance. You can have big Spark clusters. You can have Athena serverless, whatever you need for your use case.
That's fabulous. Well, thank you, Jason. I appreciate it.